So this was definitely the most ambitious project I've ever been a part of, at least for stop motion. From beginning to end, it took about 7 months. Did the majority of it in my garage. Spent 93 hours animating. Before that, there's about a 2-month set build, and before that, I spent about a month coming up with the concept and creating the storyboard, then making a digital storyboard, then creating a soundboard, which is something that I could animate to with the software that I have. And it was just an incredible experience. It was a huge learning process. I made a billion mistakes, and it was a lot of trial and error. But man, I had a lot of fun making it. And yeah, hopefully the rest of this video you can kind of get a little bit of a glimpse into why I did some of the things the way I did, how I did it, and maybe it'll be helpful, or at least interesting. The Indoraptor figures were painted by a guy named Ted Brothers. He has a YouTube channel where he does a lot of awesome custom repaints of different Jurassic Park toys. But yeah, he definitely made this Indoraptor look as cool as it could be. So go check out his channel, I'll link it below. The concept of a stop motion video on this rotating set piece following a wooden mannequin through these different rooms was actually for a different video entirely at the beginning. I work for a university in the marketing department, and we were going to make originally a little short film following kind of the student experience. We had the whole thing storyboarded, and to really sell the idea, I made these paper sets to help share the concept. It wasn't a super intuitive thing to understand unless you really see it. And then making kind of a physical version, even out of paper, helped kind of understand some of the logistics and the things that we were going to need to problem solve as far as scale and you know, what things go on which walls, stuff like that. For 25 bucks, I got a 4x8 3/4 inch MDF panel of wood for the base. Went to our innovations hub at the university, which is a really cool resource for entrepreneurs and students and faculty and staff at OU. And yeah, we cut it out on a CNC machine, and it was pretty great. Thankfully, I had a designer there to help me come up with actual design, because I don't know how to work that thing. But I had the idea, I had the concept, I knew what I wanted, and they were able to make that. And as soon as we got it, I took it back to the studio, and this is the very first test run that I did with the rotating base, and I was like super pumped about it because you can see it looks pretty good. I could tell that it was going to work. So from there, I just started practicing on animating. I am a new animator, so you know, you only get better at doing things by doing it over and over and over again. The wooden mannequin is not the best or most articulate model to use. It has its own little unique challenges, but that was kind of the look and aesthetic we're going forward, so that's why I practiced on. Ultimately, we ended up having to scrap the video, which, you know, sometimes is just the nature of a production agency. So instead of trashing the wood, the base, and the idea, I brought that home and decided to put my own personal twist on it. That was kind of the birth of Indomation. Once I decided that this was going to be kind of a soft tribute to Jurassic Park, the next step was to storyboard out everything that I wanted to see, make sure it made sense narratively. And so the first draft of the film was actually this picture, or this sketch that I did of all the sets laid out in a linear fashion, with arrows kind of showing where the action's going to happen and what's happening. So that kind of helped me later on as I needed to plan out some of the logistics of the timing and how fast or slow the set needed to rotate, and a lot of the action sequences. I was able to use these sketches and actually create a digital storyboard to look at the timing of the sequences, to look at the framing, to kind of get a better feel for like, okay, does the camera need to push in here? Do I need to anticipate the character moving on this side of the screen or that side of the screen? So everything was completely planned out before I started animating. There was no just, you know, shooting from the hip when animating, because if you do that, it's gonna suck. So once I was done with the initial storyboard, I began set design. You can see here's some of the first sketches of what the sets would be, and yeah, it took about 2 months to build everything. Once I was done building, I sent them off to a friend who volunteered to paint all the sets for me, which saved me a ton of time. Thank you, Amy, for that. Right here I am taking stills for a sequence that shows just going through the house like this. This is the video. And so I would later use this video to go back and edit, kind of like a digital storyboard, so I could practice camera moves and pans and kind of really look at the timing of how everything would look. So what you're seeing right now in the timeline is really the film, or at least half of the film at that point when I recorded this, in what it would look like in its most bare, essential form. No mannequin, no Indoraptor, but you can see I was working on pacing and timing and stuff. After I did that, I made a soundboard of the entire film. I don't know if it's actually called a soundboard, that's what I called it, but essentially it's literally the entire film with all the audio, probably about 90% of the audio laid out. And so that would help me animate later in Dragonframe software, because I could see the waveforms as I animated. You might notice that I broke everything down into sequences, and really those were there to help keep me on track. For each sequence I had a due date of when I needed to get that sequence finished by, and I think that just gave me a clearer picture of how much progress I was making or I wasn't making during the production. So I thought it'd be fun to show you all the different stages of production for one sequence in the film. So we're going to look at the bathroom sequence. Here is the initial storyboard. Again, main purpose is just locking in the general concept. Next, I made a set pick storyboard using pictures from the set that was more for camera movement. From there, I made an animation assist that I would overlay on the Dragonframe software. And then I moved on to actually test animation. And so this one was just practicing the basic beats of what the Indoraptor would do. And so it's very rough animation, you can see, but it was my first kind of look at what the scene might look like. And from there I did a second animation test, and this one I tried to make it a little bit more smoother, and in post I added camera moves and a bit richer sound effects, so again giving me a better picture for what this would finally look like. Here's the raw image sequence from the final shot in the film, unedited, untouched. This is exactly how it looks straight out of camera. The very last step was to bring certain sequences that needed wire removal into Photoshop, and then frame by frame paint out the wire. It was a long, arduous process. By that point I had already edited the camera moves and the final sound effects, so finally we have the final shot. Alright, so this is a pretty cool thing. I'm going to show you guys. It's a scene whenever Indo busts through a wooden door and sends pieces flying everywhere. I'm going to show you practically how I do that. It's pretty cool. Right now, he's about to do it again. So hold on, I'll just kind of show you the sequence. Flies through there, and it's going to bust through there. And so what I'm doing right now is I've made all these little pieces of wood, and I've glued them to soldering wire, because it's really malleable and easy to move and lightweight. And basically, I have a thicker gauge wire right here that's at the base, and I can move this however I want to reconstruct the door, and then as it breaks through frame by frame, I can move this stuff, you know, all sorts of ways to kind of replicate it being thrown across the room. Pretty cool, should look pretty sweet. That's pretty dope, am I right? So I think for now this is a really good stopping point for this video. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below. Literally I could make a ton of more videos regarding the production of this short film. I could talk about the rigging, the Indoraptor and the mannequins to the set, the Dragonframe software, the set build, the technical aspects like camera and photography and lighting, or motivation and inspiration. I mean, all those things could merit their own video, but I don't want to put all the work into making the video if nobody really cares about that. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. You can also check out my Instagram account at The Drums. There's a whole another 15 minutes of behind the scenes footage that wasn't in here on my Instagram story highlights. So just go to my page and like look at Indomation, and it's all right there. So I kind of documented the story over the 7 months, and you're free to check it out there. I do have another stop motion animated short film in the works. This one is going to be a little bit more narrative driven. It revolves around the themes of loss and how we deal with that. And it's a beautiful story. I'm already so proud of it. I'll also be documenting like the behind the scenes of the pre-production process of that film as well. And if you'd like to support me, I have a Patreon page, link below. So yeah, thank you so much for the feedback, the comments. I will get to them as quick as I can, and yeah, take care. Have a great day.